Yes, Independence Day for England. So Independence Day for England and the United Kingdom was the 29th of March. Unbeknownst to me, and I'm sure unbeknownst to many others out there, little did I realise that we have left the EU and that what Theresa May has done is illegal. There is a gentleman called Robin Tilbrook.
We noted that during your speech today, you talked about British values and extremism. What are you actually saying there?
Yes, the British government is in the process of creating, in England only, a system whereby there is a compulsory adherence to British values. So schools are being required to teach this, universities are being required to apply it, people in the medical professions are being required to have training on it, and what it comes down to is that they have redefined British values as being their values, the establishment's values, multiculturalism and so on. And the upshot is that it's not just English nationalists who obviously, because we're not pro-British values, are going to be classified as extremists, but also even people who are biblical Christians are now extremists according to the official definition, which is why you see street preachers being arrested and so on. And really any challenge to the current political orthodoxy is now, according to official definition, extremism. That is a very worrying position. It takes us into the sort of territory that people were in the Soviet Union. That's where we are.
And as you all know, I stood in the elections with the English Democrats. Now, Robin is actually taking this to the High Court. I'm going to try and explain in the simplest layman's terms my understanding of it. So basically, if you cast your mind back to when we got the referendum. When we got the referendum, Gina Miller, up stepped Gina Miller. And Gina Miller made a point of taking us to court. And that forced then for the government to have to go to Parliament, and it had to go through Parliament before Article 50 could be invoked.
We have to understand that my case is about a fundamental constitutional issue, which is only an act of Parliament, primary legislation, can establish or take away people's rights. So a motion with a timetable is really not good enough.
There was an awful lot of anger and emotion stirred up by the High Court ruling, and also in the last few days as the case was being heard by the Supreme Court. What do you say to those 52%, or some of those 52% of the British public, who basically accuse you and the unelected judges of trying to thwart the will of the people?
Well, this is exactly what they voted for. British law in a British court decided by British judges to preserve British parliamentary sovereignty. This is exactly what we should be voting for.
But they're afraid that Parliament is being used, that the courts are being used to either kick Brexit into the long grass or, at the end of the day, possibly even subvert it.
Now, she forced that. She interfered on how the government run things, therefore making it that's the legal obligation. So when Theresa May decided that, she wanted an extension, well, it's not as simple as that, Theresa.
I know there are some who are so fed up with delay and endless arguments that they would like to leave with no deal next week. I've always been clear that we could make a success of no deal in the long term, but leaving with a deal is the best solution. So we will need a further extension of Article 50, one that is as short as possible and which ends when we pass a deal.
You can't just decide to extend us and keep us in the dictatorship known as the EU. You have to do exactly what we were forced to go through with Parliament. The people you had in there, all the naysayers, all the yes, yes, yes people, well, they were just opinions. And that wasn't going through Parliament the way we had to go through Parliament. So this is what was basically said to me as a basic breakdown. So I'll read it out to you exactly as it is written for me to understand it as well, okay? To the High Court case by my friend, my friend Robin Tilbrook, solicitor and chairman of the English Democrats, to legally prove we left the EU on the 29th of March 2019. Now, we live in a civilised country, England, which has rules and procedures, law. Everyone has to follow the law, which involves changes via Acts of Parliament. Some Acts of Parliament allow flexibility or discretion in the Act of Parliament by government ministers, including the Prime Minister, basically acting on behalf of our Queen. This is called Crown Prerogative, or Henry VIII rules. Now, you may recall Remainer lady called Gina Miller making a big fuss about the Brexit legislation via the High Court and then the UK Supreme Court. She won her case. And although the UK government were going to originally use Crown prerogative powers to negotiate us out of the EU, Gina Miller insisted it had to be Parliament. The courts agreed with her. The Supreme Court found that the prerogative power of the conduct for foreign relations could not be exercised to notify the EU of the UK's withdrawal from the EU. So, Theresa May was forced to ratify the EU withdrawal law and any withdrawal laws via Parliament in the official manner. Parliament and the Queen passes the EU Article 50 law, which basically said that the UK was leaving the EU 2019, or earlier if agreement was reached. In this law, it gave no prerogative for the Prime Minister to go past this date. There was no prerogative for the Prime Minister to go past the 29th of March. The only way she could have extended the date past the 29th of March 2019 was by formally, in law, amending the law via both Houses of Parliament and the Queen to another date, or to give herself the power for her using the Crown prerogative to decide the date. She did not do this. And random votes in the House of Commons do not count, as these are opinions, not laws. Robin's case is that the Prime Minister had no lawful authority to ask the EU Council to extend the period before the UK leaves the EU or to agree to any extension proposed by the EU Council in response, and that her purported acceptance of the EU Council's offer to extend the Article 50 period was accordingly void. So as a matter of domestic, international and EU law, the United Kingdom withdrew from the EU at 11 p.m. on the 29th of March 2019.
We have to understand that my case is about a fundamental constitutional issue, which is only an Act of Parliament, primary legislation, can establish or take away people's rights. So a motion with a timetable is really not good enough.
UK government have to respond on 17th of April 2019. So Robin is taken this to court, but in order for this to succeed, Gina Miller had fundings of thousands. Now, I've seen the power of people's abilities to raise funds. I've seen it with my own two wives. Other people come on, they want money for something, or they've got to go in, they're being taken to court and they're going to be they're facing prison. And I've seen people throw money hand over fist, hand over fist, hand over fist for it. I don't know about you, but I think it would be bloody good to see everybody put their hands in their pockets for £1, 50p, £5, whatever, and help Robin take the Prime Minister through the High Courts. Because at the end of the day, what she's done is criminal. She broke the law. It's illegal. She has no right to extend Article 50 without going through every single hoop that she was made to jump through before to invoke Article 50. She can't just change her mind willy-nilly because a few people agreed with her in the House of Lords and throw all of those people who voted to leave the EU under the bus. She cannot do that. Robin is he's a lawyer, so he knows the law, but he's got to have barristers who are knowledgeable in this field. These people cost money. We need to be able to help Robin. We need people to push that donate and go onto Robin Tilbrook's page, Robin Tilbrook in English Democrats. Look and inbox him, ask him if he's got a PayPal, if there's another way that they can donate. But please, can we for once donate to something that will make a difference to the entire country? He can't do it without our help. He can't. And this is perhaps that opportunity to actually donate to something where we could win the case at the High Courts and then on to the Supreme Courts. There is no reason to think we cannot do this. To be honest with you, look, I've heard people going on about the Brexit Party and that's dividing the votes and that's splitting the votes. I'm sorry, but you've already got two parties that split the votes. You've got For Britain, you've got UKIP. You've already split the votes yourselves. The fact that Nigel Farage had always stood by what he said and said that he would not work with certain people. That is his prerogative. And there'll be a lot of people that are going to get behind him. And I can't say that I blame them for them, because at the end of the day, there would never have even been that referendum if it hadn't have been for Nigel Farage. And whether you love him or hate him, you have to give credit where it's due. I, for one, would personally, I'm probably more likely to vote towards the Brexit Party. But if Robin achieves this, well, then we won't need the Brexit Party.
This is exactly what we should be voting for.
Because Theresa May will have committed an illegal act. So it won't be as simple as she thinks it's going to be. But he can't do that. Robin Tilbrook cannot do this without your help. What she's done is she has made a mockery of democracy. Whether they like the vote or not, democracy must win every time. This is Robin Tilbrook legal case against the government. He's taking the government to the courts, to the High Courts, and then hopefully on through the Supreme Courts. Because we have left the EU, and what she has done is illegal. Now, there has been another High Court judge who has already said Robin has a really good case. I think if you actually have a look on YouTube, you'll find a couple of videos of Robin Tilbrook talking about this. But the mainstream media don't want to cover it. Because if the mainstream media cover it, of course, people will donate to help him fight that. People will donate to defend democracy. And of course, the mainstream media don't want that. So the only thing we can do is I'm asking you all now, and yes, I am asking. Yes, I know that the Gina Miller case, I know how much it cost. But what we have to remember is there were 17.4 million people voted to leave the EU. It will be good to see 17.4 million people donate and help Robin take this and take her to the cleaners. This is so, so, so important. Find Robin Tilbrook. His last name is it's Robin, so last name is spelled Tilbrook. Find him on Facebook. You'll find him on the English Democrats. Get over onto his page. That way you can keep up to date on what he's doing and where he's at. He does have a really good case. There is an article about it in the Daily Mail, because of course there's only the Daily Mail that will even go anywhere near printing the story. They can't have one set of rules when Gina Miller goes to court and then change it later on down the route. So I really hope he succeeds in this, and I hope everybody is just as quick to help him fight financially and morally and give him the support that he needs in every conceivable way.
This is exactly what we should be voting for.
For now, everybody, take care, stay safe, be good. Bye for now.